I knew you were supposed to be there. I knew you were supposed to be there. Yeah. I'm going to say, would you please join me in welcoming this man up over there? And I'm going to start with Martin, Shane, and Joe, and I'll do a pregame there. And then, no, you'll be, yes. No, no, I'd like you to be last. Stewart, Hearn, Stewart, Bumble, wait a minute. His daughter and Sharon's sister. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please stand and join me in welcoming Department Commander Larry Lowry and the official convention platform party. To my right will be the four vice commanders. However, they're on the floor right now. Charlie Martin, Howard Brannon, Jerry Ward, and Ron Hanger. And then from my left, Chaplain Norris Kern, National Executive Committeeman Paul Stewart, Department Judge Advocate Joe Bumbleberg, and of course, Commander Larry Lowry.
Please remain standing while the colors of our country are posted by Color Guard members of Bloomfield Memorial Post 196 from the 7th District. Color Guard, fall in. Carry. Come. Gotta have that. And salute. color guard for that impressive display. For more than a quarter of a century, we have opened our convention with a resolute reminder of those who went to war and never returned. They are the prisoners of war and the missing in action. It does not matter if the prisoners or missing have gone for decades or for days. It does not matter if they will be returned or if they can only be accounted for. We designate a POW-MIA empty chair at all official meetings of the American Legion as a physical symbol of the thousands of American POWs and MIAs still unaccounted for from every war in which Americans have taken up arms. Accordingly, at this time, the Department Vice Commanders will place the POW-MIA flag on the empty chair, a reminder for all of us to spare no effort to secure the release of all American prisoners from captivity, to repatriate those who died bravely in the defense of liberty, and to demand a full accounting of those missing. Let us rededicate ourselves to this vital endeavor. Please place the POW-MIA flag on the empty chair. Thank you, gentlemen. Our department chaplain, Norris Kern, will now deliver the invocation. Chaplain Kern.
Let us be in an attitude of prayer. Eternal and gracious God, as we joyously begin our 98th convention, we take a moment to remember the slain police officers in Dallas, those wounded, those who are in questionable state at this time. Let us remember them with a moment of silence. Gracious God, we also ask for your blessings to be with former Commander Dutch Bull, District Commander Paul James, and First Lady Claudia, and others who are in need. We ask this in your divine name. We pray your blessings upon Commander Lowry, and we're thankful for the great and successful year that he and his staff and other workers in the American Legion have done to have a successful year. We celebrate that, and we celebrate with the awards that we are to give throughout this convention. We pray your blessing upon our assembly and upon all the deliberations that we make, that they would be pleasing unto you. And as we gather at this great convention, we're mindful that there are still brave young men and young women around the globe who serve in various positions to ensure that not only our freedom is preserved, but to offer freedom oftentimes to people who have never experienced freedom before. And we're thankful for their service and their dedication, and we pray for their families to keep the home fires going. Watch over and bless them. Now be with us and guide us, and may you receive the glory, for it's in your holy name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Kern. Please remain uncovered and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Covered. Please join me in reciting the preamble to the American Legion Constitution. For God and country,
we associate ourselves together for the following purposes: to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, to maintain law and order, to foster and perpetuate 100% Americanism, to preserve the memory and existence of our association with the great wars, to inculcate a sensitivity to obligation to the community, state, and nation, combat the hypocrisy of both classes and masters,
vocalist to the platform. This singer is an Air Force veteran, and she will lead us in our national anthem. And I encourage you all to sing with the extremely talented Legionnaire from Bloomville Memorial Post 196. Please welcome Mary Beth McFan to the platform and stand with me as we sing along. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem. Thank you very much, Mary. What a beautiful performance. Delegates and alternates to this convention, distinguished guests, visitors, my fellow Legionnaires. I now declare the 98th Annual Convention of the American Legion, Department of Indiana, regularly convened. It is my request that all delegates and alternates attend all scheduled sessions and that the district commanders close the hospitality rooms during the regularly scheduled sessions of this convention. And now, before we get down to business, it is my privilege to introduce the Marriott East General Manager, Mike Roden.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. It is my privilege to welcome everybody back for the 98th convention here at the Indianapolis Marriott East Hotel. Welcome, and we're looking forward to a great weekend for you. Our whole staff really looks forward to this convention every year. It is our honor to get a chance to work with you. We respect so much everything you've done for our country and all the good work you continue to do. And we're just here to make this a successful weekend for you. So your team, along with Mr. Dagley and your leadership, have worked with our team to put together a great convention. But if there's anything anybody needs individually, please let us know. That's what we're here for. We want to serve you like you've so graciously served us, and we really appreciate it. So it's our honor. Have a great weekend, and just let us know what you need to make it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're very happy to be here once again. I would like to introduce a representative from the Indianapolis VA Regional Office. Please welcome Senior Service Manager Terry Dowdley to my platform.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Mr. Michael Stevens, our director, and the entire staff and employees at the Indianapolis VA Regional Office, we would like to thank you for your invitation today. I'd be remiss if I wouldn't tell our men and women of the uniform, thank you for your service. I will hope you know that we work every day to improve the service to you and your families. I'm not going to be before you long today as I struggle with what do I want them to know today. I started thinking about some of the things that are in the media often, and I would say my spirit sometimes is very heavy veterans really know that many of us, when we work every day, we really do care about the service we provide. We're very committed to improving that service. And you see things with the secretary, and I want to talk about today just a few of the initiatives. We before you shortly, that's it. But some of the initiatives and things that Secretary McDonough has presented, that is his platform, I'm in very much support of because I believe it speaks to the veteran. I started VA in 2004, and I've always, our mantra is one VA. But it doesn't look that way to veterans. We look like a big bureaucracy, and many of you serve veterans every day. Those are your customers, and I work closely with many that are in our regional office. But I think the My VA initiative speaks to that. In 2014, Secretary McDonough introduced this initiative called My VA, and it is a veteran-centered transformation plan to modernize VA. And over the last few years, we've done that. You've heard about our backlog and our rating claims, and I can tell you last year we completed 1.4 million claims. On average, it was taking 325 days to serve veterans. Our average days to complete a rating claim now is roughly 119 days. We are more paperless now. Those of you that worked or came to our regional offices, you knew that there were files for days, volumes and volumes of paper. And if you were stationed at times and you were inundated with the workload and claims file, and if I wanted to send that work to another station, I had to box up the files in my office and send them to another station. I can tell you that modernizing VA now, we are now paperless, as many of you know. And so we no longer work in a paper environment. So when you send claims in, or veterans send information, anyone in the country can assist us with that work. We've done great work in modernizing that, and I tell you, it helps with not worrying about in the past, am I getting that information? You send them to a contractor, they scan it in, and it's available anywhere in the country. So our veterans, that are snowbirds that like to go to Florida, if you go down to St. Pete and you live in Indiana in December, if there's a document you need, you can go to that office and have public contact and someone can print it. You no longer have to worry about where my file is because it's electronic and we can see it anywhere in the world. The 5 My VA objectives is just that, to improve the veteran experience, and that's focused on what does it look like to the veteran and what matters to you. I think since the inception, we've forced upon veterans to look at what's important or what we believe is important. And the My VA initiative is different. He's created teams across the country where employees and veterans are on those committees because 7 out of 10 of our employees are veterans that work for the Department of Veteran Affairs. And we ask, what's more important to you? And we're starting to get some of that information, and he's using that information to push out in the field, to push out in the medical centers, and the offices, the cemeteries, to say, this is what's important to veterans, and how do we improve this area for the veteran? The second objective is to improve the employee experience. As I said, 7 out of 10 of our employees are veterans. Here in Indiana, we have some of the best colleges in the country. Indiana is known for some of this, is education. Throughout the fabric of the city of Indianapolis is this whole approach to how do we improve education in our middle schools and our high schools, and how do we as a community promote it. And so those minds go out into college, but we hire people that some are out of high school, and they're able to build careers right in our offices, right in our medical centers. The third objective is to improve support services for our employees. And how do you do that? Better trained employees. We have a goal in our agency to have 98% quality. I would say in my office I'm 98%. Some months I am. Most months I run around 95%. But I'm very proud because as productive as we are as an office, we continuously focus on training, making sure our employees know how to rate a veteran claim, what to look at, what is going to make this veteran whole. So I believe personally as a manager that customer service begins with quality. So we continue to manage that and ensure that our employees get over 80 hours of training a fiscal year and more if required. The fourth objective is to establish a culture of continuous improvement. And that is what I talked about before, modernizing. We don't stop at only going electronic and just being more paperless. But I believe some of the things where we had a backlog of years past was that we didn't keep up with the technology. We didn't leverage technology to improve service to veterans. And so the Secretary has charged us to continuously look at ways to be innovative. And the fifth objective is to enhance strategic partnership. And he states that no one organization to do it alone. And this is huge because we have a lot of My VA experience offices, one in each state. And the goal is if that community organization has parking near a VHA medical center, which if you go to this one down here on 10th, you know that they have parking issue at times. But if there are organizations and businesses that's near them that have parking, how do we work with them to ensure that our veterans can park there? And that's just one example that I do think it improves. What other services do this organization provide that VA can come alongside and work with so that we can improve the lives of veterans? The Secretary, under the auspices of those objectives, has 12 breakthrough priorities. Now, of the 12, I'm only going to talk about 2 today. There are many, I think all apply to me every day, but the 2 most important, I would say, are the CMP exam process. Just past April, VHA, myself, with the director of the office, Mr. Stevens, we all convened in Oklahoma. And one of the things we looked at with VHA personnel, out of my 12 years, I've not attended a conference where I was with VHA personnel to look at and discuss the CMP exam process. And some of the things we talked about is how do we change the communication? And I know many of you know that at this point, we tell VHA we want to schedule, we need a CMP exam. They give you a date and time. If it doesn't work, then you usually call back and say this doesn't work. That's what veterans do. But now what's going to happen, we will look at it on VBA, that how about we send that letter out to you? And how about we tell you to reach out to the medical center? And you're able to look at your schedule and say, this is the date and time that works for me. Again, improving the veteran experience is looking at what's best for the veteran and remove the bureaucracy and what works for us. The other area we're looking at is the customer service. When he went and asked, veteran says, I would like to see more kiosks. I don't want to always have to go to someone else and get what I need. So can you make it more available for me to do it if I am in the hospital? And when you go there, you may see My Healthy Vet, and there are other things in the hospital now that are more feasible for the veterans to utilize to get the information they need, to even make appointments, as well as the surveys. And I can tell you on many occasions over the last year and a half that we are seeing those survey results. Someone is reading that. And it depends on how it's responded when veterans leave names and phone numbers. We follow up with you because we are concerned about the thoughts and the concerns and the issues that are plaguing you each day, because we do realize we don't have it all correct, but we are a work in progress, and we are committed to improving that. And number 2, the biggie, as I talk about the rating, production and all that workload is a lot better, and I think you all can attest to that if you work with us. But we realize our biggest area is the appeals process. And it is a long, monotonous process, and we have pegged this year as FY16, the year of the appeals. I can tell you in October of this past year, I increased my staffing on the appeals team by 70%. For the first time in my 12 years as a VBA employee, do I recall receiving overtime funding specifically for appeals work only. We had an appeals team, but they would help us on rating work. And I tell you, our headquarters was very generous. Every station was very well compensated to improve the appeals workload. We have funding so that even beyond the 40-hour work week, our employees can work to improve that backlog in that area. We're also working closely with other government agencies. Those of you service officers, you're very familiar with our process. Some of our biggest issue with appeals are our laws, our rules, because an appeal can go on forever. And so we're looking at how do we change that? What regulation may need to be modified? How do we improve it? We're also, you've heard of fully developed claim. We are exploring a fully developed appeal. Again, how do we streamline and make this process less time intensive on you? The other areas in which I receive communication often from service officers, although it's not one of the 12 priorities, is our non-rating workload. The dependencies, adding a child that's in college, that's in school, our apportionment. I'm very excited. I tell you, in our office, we have improved our production on that workload over 6% this fiscal year. I added more staffing. I increased that staffing in October to about 60%. My plan this October is to add more additional staffing over there. We are work in progress. There are some great things going on in VA. We're working every day to improve our service to you. And just a little side note, just some things I want you to know about how well in the state of Indiana we serve veterans. As of 2014 data, we have roughly 476,000 veterans in our state. However, we pay out per month over $117 million in benefits to veterans in Indiana. We have 83,400 veterans receiving benefits, 9,800 dependents receiving benefits. And so what I would like to say to you all is thank you. For those that I see often, the service officers that I work with daily, I thank you. You have been very patient and kind. The approach and your professionalism, I couldn't ask for anything more. I will hope that you know that our doors are always open. I want you to know from me and my staff that we are personally committed to improving the lives of veterans. We are very excited about the progress we've made. We're looking forward to where we are headed. I want to thank you for the opportunity to stand before you today, and I wish you much success on your convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Being a county veteran service officer, I appreciate all the stuff you're doing for the veterans. At this time, I consider it an honor to introduce the next distinguished guest of the afternoon to the lectern. Over this last year, Hoosier veterans have spoken. He, his staff, and the Indiana General Assembly not only listened to the veterans, they acted on and cleared a number of veteran-specific bills this past legislative session, a huge bipartisan effort. He signed 13 pieces of veteran-specific legislation into law March 22nd. And 5 of those acts that he signed were part of our 6 of our department's legislative priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the governor for the great state of Indiana, Mike Pence.
Thank you so much, Commander Lowry. Thank you for that gracious introduction and that very warm welcome. To the Vice Commanders, Brannon, Martin, Ward, and Hanger, I thank you for the gracious invitation today to address you all for the 98th Annual Convention, 81,000 members strong of the American Legion Department of Indiana. This is an extraordinary organization, and I'm honored to be with you today. Before I begin, a point of personal privilege as your governor and as a fellow American. I come to the podium with a heavy heart from the news we all awakened to this morning. 12 police officers shot in Dallas. 5 officers lost their lives. I am grateful that this convention opened with a moment of silent prayer for our fallen heroes and their families. Our condolences and prayers go out to the families of these law enforcement officers who lost their lives in this horrific ambush that took place in Dallas last night. This cowardly attack is a national tragedy, and the hearts of every Hoosier are in Dallas today. I am particularly grateful that in just a few short moments I'll join the Sons of the American Legion to lay a wreath at the memorial commemorating the 46 members of the Indiana State Police who have lost their lives in the line of duty since 1933. Previously on the schedule, my wife and I would lay a wreath at the State Police Memorial today. Would you join me in thanking the Sons of the American Legion for loving our officers so much? Of course, the attack on the police officers in Dallas is a heartbreaking reminder of the risks that men and women in the law enforcement community take every day to protect and serve our communities. I just stopped by the training academy for the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. 32 young cadets, 5 weeks into a 26-week first half of their training. Heroes all. And I looked them in the eye and shook every one of their hands and just said, I just came by to say thanks. In the wake of this tragedy, we must be clear. Violence and threats against law enforcement officers will never be tolerated in the state of Indiana. As we work hard to stand by our veterans and stand by those who serve, so also must we ensure that our law enforcement officers at every level have the training and the resources to defend themselves as they protect our communities. And this we will do. While today we think of our fallen officers as fellow Americans, our hearts also go out to the families of those who lost their lives in police shootings earlier this week. As we mourn with those who mourn, I believe it's also time to humble ourselves and reflect on how each of us, in renewed ways, might build bridges of opportunity and hope in struggling communities across our state. So let's pray. Let's pray for the fallen. Let's also pray for the grace to heal our land by standing with those who stand on the thin blue line and showing renewed compassion and care for all those struggling at the point of the need. It's humbling for me always to stand before those who've worn the uniform. Because like the majority of Hoosiers and the majority of Americans, that's not part of my story. But I am the son of a soldier, combat veteran, Korea, who served at Pork Chop, came home, put the medals in the drawer, and never talked about it. Sometimes I think when my dad was raising me and my 3 brothers, all very close in age, that we were more of a platoon than a family. I'm also the proud father of a United States Marine. My son received his commission last year. So you can see it's humbling for me to be with all of you. But I'm honored to stand here alongside you members of the American Legion, veterans all, talk about what we have done together to support our veterans in the state of Indiana. You know, it just seems like yesterday that I had the privilege of joining many of you at a signing of 13 separate bills supporting veterans in the state of Indiana at the State House. My wrist is still a little bit sore but I'm still smiling. And as Commander Lowry just said, the American Legion was there all along the way, making the case for the needs of our veterans. 81,000 members of the American Legion Department of Indiana, but Indiana is proud to be home to some 500,000 men and women who have worn the uniform of the United States of America. Thank you. I think you can also be proud that in the last few years, I've actually had the privilege as your governor of signing more than 30 veteran-specific bills. I thought I'd share them for just a moment with you and then return the podium for the rest of this day and the honors that will follow to so many that are well-deserving. Before I do that, let me also thank members of my team. You know, you're only as good as the people around you. And when I became governor, I didn't look any farther than a retired command sergeant major to lead the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs, and he's with us today. Would you join me in thanking Jim Brown for his dedication and devotion to the veterans of this state? My pledge to each one of you is our administration will continue our commitment to veterans, living out a principle that Abraham Lincoln expressed in that second inaugural, to care for him who shall have borne the battle. And we've been about that business. From my very first day in office, I signed an executive order establishing the state's commitment to contracting with veteran-owned businesses, and I later signed legislation putting that commitment into law. The state of Indiana, I'm proud to say, is making a priority of doing business with veterans, and we're better off for it. In the early days of our administration, we also enacted and appropriated funding to educate and train our county veteran service officers that are such an important link to earned resources and benefits in the community of veterans in all 92 counties of Indiana. I'm proud to say, with the strong support of the legions all across the state of Indiana, we've gone from 8 county veteran service officers accredited with the federal VA to more than 70 today. We are making progress and driving toward federal accreditation, and this we will achieve. According to VA, Indiana's share of federally earned benefits for veterans has been on the rise each of the last few years, and that is evidence of more effective services for our veterans at the county level. Also, in the state of Indiana, we've also doubled the resources for the IDVA in order to better serve our Hoosier veterans. I'm pleased to say in calendar year 2015, the Department of Veterans Affairs was extremely active in Hoosier communities. They hosted 12 different veteran employment community outreach events with the strong support of the American Legion Department of Indiana. And according to our current records, Director Brown tells me that over 7,800 veterans are working today in Indiana because of opportunities they found at those special events. In fact, according to the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, Indiana now has the second lowest unemployment rate for veterans in the United States of America, 2.4%. We've also been working harder to come alongside veterans who are struggling to make ends meet or to get started on life's ladder. The Department of Veterans Affairs sought out and received more than $2 million in a TANF grant back in April of 2015. They've been able to help more than 400 military families with critical services from job training to family and marital counseling to child care and the like. In addition, I'm pleased to say that I've twice now expanded eligibility for the Military Family Relief Fund. It's allowed us to help more veterans in the last 2 years than the first 8 years of the program combined. The people of Indiana are coming alongside those who serve as never before. And also, I'm very proud that in recognition of the expanding role women have in our military, we launched in our administration the Women in Indiana Who Are Veterans program. The WinVet program is all about empowering women veterans by providing resources, quality communication. We actually had in April our very first Women's Veterans Conference in the state of Indiana, and we are grateful the American Legion Department of Indiana's strong support of our effort to build services around our women veterans here in the state of Indiana. And lastly, I'm also very proud of the fact that in just under 3 years, the Indiana Veterans Home, that historic facility in West Lafayette, has improved from a 2-star rating, below average, to an above average 5-star rating facility in the state of Indiana. It's the highest possible rating. But you know, it's nothing more than our heroes deserve. Now, the old book says, if you owe debts, pay debts. If honor, then honor. If respect, then respect. And what I recount to you today, what we've been able to do together with the American Legion Department of Indiana, is simply an ongoing effort in the state of Indiana to pay a debt we can never fully repay. Those of you who served, put on the uniform, are owed a debt. The people of Indiana know it. You know, I saw a headline the other day that in a big city newspaper in the state that said that Indiana was the 35th least patriotic state in America. I thought, whoever wrote that article needs to actually drive around Indiana on the 4th of July, and they might get a different opinion. I was down in Linton, Indiana. It was raining cats and dogs. There must have been 10,000 people along the parade route. Didn't matter. Rain or shine, we were out. We celebrate our freedom in Indiana, and we cherish you who defended it. So I would say to you, as your governor, I'm here simply to say thanks. Simply to tell you that our ongoing efforts as your governor will be to stand by you who've stood for us. And I'll close where I opened, and that is thinking of that veteran who raised me. His Bronze Star now is in a frame. My mom put it there with a picture of him the day he got it pinned on. It wasn't until I was an adult that I got out the statement and read why he got it. He told us a lot of funny stories about it when we were kids. None of them even close to the bravery that was associated with what he did. You know, my dad, just a couple days ago, would have been 83 years old. He's gone since 1988. But he's still my hero. He raised me to believe in just a couple of basic things. To have faith, love your family, and to step up and stand up for your country. He's my hero to this day. And I just want you to know that everything I do as your governor will always be animated by the old man who never talked about the service. In fact, whenever he talked about those days in Korea, he said the heroes were the ones that didn't come home. We'll pray for them. Will stand with you. So help me God. If you'll permit me, I have one more piece of business. That's to pay a debt of gratitude to an individual who has an extraordinary career in public service. Retired after 31 years as a journeyman tool and die maker from General Motors in Kokomo, Indiana. Wrapping up his tenure as the commander of the American Legion Department of Indiana. Married 42 years to his precious wife, Claudia. 2 daughters, 2 grandsons. History with the Legion began at Post 418, Walton, Indiana, 1971. As a post-service officer, post-chaplain, post-vice commander, post-commander. Came up the ladder with a heart of service for our veterans in this storied institution. Served as chairman of all 4 Department of Indiana commissions. Served the national organization as vice chairman of the Americanism Council. Served the past 10 years as the veteran service officer in Cass County, overseeing the support and services of some 3,700 veterans. His time in uniform, served from 70 to 72, deployed to Vietnam, one of the Screaming Eagles, part of the Army's 101st. His motto for his term in office, duty, honor, country, no sacrifice too great. A term he and his fellow troops learned and recited daily during basic training back in 1970, and it never left him. And so, as governor of the state of Indiana, it's my privilege from time to time to single out citizens for particular honor. Those individuals who, by their character, by their service, and by their devotion, have simply made Indiana a better place to live. And so join me in congratulating Commander Larry Lowry on being the newest recipient of the state's highest honor, the Sagamore of the Wabash, with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto.
Thank you very much, Governor. We thank you for all your hard work over this last year, and we hope to continue our working relationship for sure. Well, we're going to change the schedule just a little bit. Our next guest, Joe Donnelly, we thought we had a last-minute change in his schedule, which we do have a last minute. He wasn't scheduled to be here, but he is here now, so it gives me great pride and pleasure to introduce our senator from great state of Indiana, Joe Donnelly.
Good afternoon, everybody. Obviously, I'm not Senator Donnelly. My name's Jordan Isaacs, and I work for Senator Donnelly. Joe, unfortunately, could not be here today, but he does have a video message which he'd like to share. So we're going to go ahead and move forward with that, and we can go ahead and cue the video message from the senator. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Senator Joe Donnelly. I wish I could be with you today in Indianapolis for your annual convention. It's always one of the highlights of my year. As America's largest veterans service organization, the American Legion strengthens the fabric of our communities and enriches the lives of all our veterans, service members, and your families. But we can never fully repay our vets and your families for your service and sacrifice. Our country has a sacred responsibility to honor you and to provide the care and benefits you deserve. Over the past year, our nation has been commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. As many of you know well, our Vietnam-era veterans have endured unique hardships, and you deserve our utmost respect. That's why I spoke on the floor of the Senate last fall to honor all our Vietnam veterans, and why I worked with my colleague, Senator Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania, to introduce the bipartisan Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act, to designate March 29th as National Vietnam War Veterans Day. I've also been working with my friend Senator John Bozeman from Arkansas on bipartisan legislation to create the first Gulf War Memorial in our nation's capital to honor and remember those who fought in Operations Desert Storm and Desert Shield. We need to honor our veterans with more than just speeches and parades. We need to do a better job of getting you access to quality health care and to benefits that are paid fairly and on time. While we did the right thing expanding options for veterans through the Veterans Choice Act, I've heard from too many Hoosiers about delays and difficulties when you actually try to use those choice benefits. I've worked with my friend Congressman Visclosky, calling on the VA to ensure that veterans can access health care without any excessive travel burden. We were successful, and now the VA considers travel times and the distance from appropriate care, rather than just the straight line distance from a veteran's home to the nearest VA facility. I also spoke on the Senate floor and met with the President of Health Net Federal Services, trying to make sure that you get on-time service on time to end the challenges facing Hoosier veterans using the Veterans Choice Program. I'll continue working to make sure that Hoosier vets receive the timely care and quality care you deserve. I believe that all of our veterans deserve the peace of mind that access to quality health care brings. Serving all of you and making sure you receive the best care possible, whether for physical ailments or for mental health challenges, is something I take very seriously. That's why we introduced the Jacob Sexton Act, which was signed into law in 2014 and requires an annual mental health assessment for all service members. It's why we also introduced the Care Package, much of which has been signed into law. The Care Package aims to expand access